Big ass R&B singer.
Yo,
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, look at this that gold chain he got on. Boy, what the hell? What you plan on doing after this?
It's my
I hope.
business.
Oh
On
God. Oh,
bed.
you out of control, bro. I just
No,
realized
you y'all out of control.
you the one with this
Y'all is
bed
out
sheet
of
on.
control. Huh?
You the one with the bed sheet on.
Yeah,
You
my
got a
boy got
bed
some
sheet on
storm.
top of your head. The fuck you mean?
And that's fine too.
Shit. Let me check, make sure everything's streaming right. Yep, we love, bit. Um, all right. Welcome to the Million Mind Podcast, where we have a million subjects and a million opinions on the subjects. Today, I have my co-host, JD Easter.
What's up,
Tell the people what's
y'all?
up.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right, now special guest today is my actual blood brother, my boy Trevante.
Hey, how y'all doing?
What's up, brother? Today is about real estate, unraveling the truth within real estate. And my brother here, he is a real estate agent, been going on for what, about 4 years, you said?
Yeah, it'll be 4 years coming up November.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you would, just go ahead and give a rundown of like what you done, everything, you know what I'm saying? Just a little info for
Got
the people that don't know you. A lot of people don't know you.
got it. So, originally, actually, I got licensed in Georgia. I did the national part, but I was in the transition of moving back to Tennessee. So, November, I ended up getting my license to get active in real estate. Joined a brokerage called EXP Realty. My first year, I was a solo agent, sold no properties. Met with a couple buyers, but couldn't get them approved. Didn't really know, alternative steps. Come that following year, a guy named Donnie Morrow reached out to me on LinkedIn. He has the biggest team here with EXP, so we talked, met up. He allowed me to join the team, and since then, each year, with this being my third year on the team, I've increased my sales and volume. So this year, so last year I did, I believe 13, 14 deals. I capped, meaning I hit like a minimum threshold in our brokerage. And this year, as of today, I actually have 8 deals under contract. So I'm on pace already to eclipse that. And I also recently I got licensed in Mississippi. So it's been
That's
going
good.
well. So I'm licensed now in Tennessee and Mississippi. At some point, if my production keeps going like it should, I may either go and get Arkansas since, we're a tri-state area, Arkansas right across the bridge.
As you should. I'm trying to buy a house for my brother. Keep the money in the family, man.
Hey, I got you. Just give me probably to the end of the year, I'll make some shake.
Okay, bet. Okay, so first question off, what made you get into real estate? Like, what was? Cause I know you went to college at Morehouse or whatever. You were playing football. You got a scholarship for football in Morehouse, all that stuff. And so, what brought you to that point?
So when I left Morehouse, actually, I enrolled in Atlanta John Marshall Law School, which is a law school in Atlanta, and I wanted to do a different side of real estate. But
Mhm.
I only made it through like half of law school. I couldn't master the skills, so I basically failed out. And I was like, well, I still could be a real estate agent, and just it's a different side due to sales. And at that time, my parents had bought a house, and I met with their real estate agent, Miss Savannah, and she was with EXP. So me and her had stayed in communication. I was like, well, at some point, I'm gonna go and get my real estate license. So when I came, like I said, I was in Georgia at the time. I had just basically failed out of school because I was on pace to get my license in Georgia. That way, by the time I had a year or so of real estate experience, I would have been graduating law school. But that didn't work out. So I came to Tennessee and continued. And man, I like the money you can make. I like the availability. I had a background in sales and helping people, so it just kind of all lined up where I was like, well, you know what? I just gonna, make the real estate thing work, and that's how I jumped into it.
It
What
runs
would
in the
you
family.
say? What would you say has been your biggest challenge since you've been in real estate in these past 4 years almost?
The biggest challenge is the consistency of doing the basics. Every day, Our team leader and our coaches, you can't get bored with the basics and you can't fall off track. And the basics is really getting up and what we call leads, or basically people that either have recently inquired about a property or at some point they inquired about a property, and you're trying to work with them to get them in said property into the closing table. Well, not everybody's ready to buy now, or not everybody answers. So it's really just getting up every day, calling those people, checking in, and kind of progressing them from just looking at houses to getting them to the closing table, but doing it at their pace because essentially, as realtors, we work for either the buyer or seller in either transaction. So it's just that's the challenge of doing it every day where it may not pay off for a few months, but you still have to stay in touch with people. You have to set your reminders. You have to follow up with people, and that can be very challenging because I mean, you can follow up with a person for a year before they buy, and that's in retrospect, it's not a long time. But when you need a paycheck or when you
Yeah.
only work on commission, so
Right.
all the work you do before you get to closing, I mean, it could end up you do all that work and not get paid. So it's like it's hard to continue the process sometimes when you if you can't really delay that gratification.
I feel you. I feel you. Okay, for the people that don't know, how would you explain the different programs of buying a house? I know you got FHA, USDA, VA. You got a few first-time home buyer programs. Deep dive into that a little bit of each one, and then probably the requirements. 'Cause I know what FHA, it has the lowest requirement, but a 3.5 interest rate for the most part. I mean, down payment wise, yeah, down payment. And then USDA is for more like rural areas. So people that don't know is probably Wake Village, Nash, and Texarkana. Mandeville and Texarkana. And then it's no down payment, more so you paying for inspection. So go ahead, deep dive into that.
Got it. Yeah. So you got it. The gist of it. So there are some what we just call qualified mortgage programs. So you have FHA, which when FHA was originally created, it was for first time home buyers, but really now it's not so more just all the way geared toward first time home buyers. FHA is just a government backed loan where there is that 3.5% down payment, and you basically have to stay within the FHA conforming limit. So every zip code has a maximum limit that you can use the FHA loan for. Usually the requirements for that are a little bit more flexible than like conventional loans or things like that. But it really depends on what lender you have. I know some lenders that'll go down to 540, but they will usually require like a manual underwrite, meaning it's not as seamless as a process. There's a little bit more people touching and reviewing the file. But usually, if they go down to 540, they may require like 10% down payment. So like
Right.
a $100,000 loan or $100,000 purchase price, you would put 10,000 down. But it all depends
Right.
on the lenders. Conventional, those are and the big thing with FHA. It usually also has mortgage insurance and the appraisal part that the lender orders. And the appraisal just means that when you get a house under contract, that lender, whoever is going to be giving the buyer the money, they're going to send a third party appraiser to go and inspect the house to make sure that the house is livable. So they're going to make sure that the roof is in decent condition, the foundation, like the HVAC system, hot water heater, all those major components that make the house what we call livable.
Right. Right.
So FHA is a little bit more strict on what they deem as appropriate, and usually here in in the Memphis market, it includes like a stove, a range, dishwasher. Some of those like appliances have to be sold and included with the house.
Necessities wise, yeah.
Yeah. With conventional, usually, and now conventional, you can do like a 3% conventional, 5%, 10%. That is usually for people with a little higher credit score. So conventional, usually the minimum credit score is like 620, some 640, some 660. It all just depends on the lender. And I always tell people it's good to get two or three lenders and talk to them about what programs they offer because two might not work for you, but the third might. But conventional, it's a little bit more lenient with the appraisal than FHA. You can have multiple. conventional loans, and that's another thing with FHA. When you have a loan under your name with FHA, you can only have one. So like if you was doing investment, you could only have one FHA loan at a time. But with conventional, as long as you qualify, you can have multiple conventional loans. And
So
to
I
Okay.
qualify,
So
yes.
I have a question for someone like me. Brandon said that he's ready to buy a house.
Mhm.
He also, he has two girls, so that's more understandable. For a person like me, single, no kids, no husband, I live by myself. What type of advice would you give a person like me if I was interested in buying a house? Would you go forward with buying a house, or would you say, you know what, I would just wait? Because that's where I'm kind of stuck at. Because I think people get into the thing about, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this. I got a good job. I'm gonna go buy a house. But in my mind, I feel like it's kind of silly to go out and buy a house, and it's just me. You know?
Got it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a matter of what your goals are and what works for you. For some people, most realtors, they want you to always buy because that's how we get paid.
Exactly.
And that's fine, but sometimes renting is best. Like because when you rent,
Right.
you know, you don't have to deal with maintenance, you don't have to deal with the
Facts.
getting, approved for a mortgage. But now, I mean, some of these rental companies, they make you jump through more hoops than to get a mortgage. So
Yeah, my apartment I live in now, I had to
Facts.
go through a little bit. I'm like, okay, am I buying a house or am I renting? What's going on?
yeah,
Right,
so
right, right.
now it's almost the same to rent as to buy. I mean, one of the biggest difference is when you stay in a rental, if something happens major, like if the hot water heater goes out, if the water tank busts, things like that, usually the tenant is able to just contact the owner and the owner gets that situated versus when you're a homeowner, that would fall on you. That's why I have heard a lot of people say they want to rent until they are ready to handle those kind of situations. What a lot of people don't know is when you buy, you can buy what's called a home warranty. Usually, a home warranty, like the contract I just got today, the seller was offering a 1 year home warranty for the buyer. The home warranty was $580, and they do have multiple options of home warranty. The home warranty usually covers those major systems, but you could kind of modify the home warranty to make sure it covers some other things in the house. But usually, they cover HVAC, appliances, um electric, I mean, like your electrical, sometimes plumbing. They cover a wide range of things, but the basic home warranty covers the basic units of the house. And what that would do, instead of you then having to be financially on the hook for, say if like your HVAC goes out, I mean that could easily be $1,000 plus repair. But if you have that home warranty, you make a service call, they charge you $75, and the warranty will cover that repair, and they will either repair or replace. So as you as a single person, it's just a matter of what's the goal. Do you just want the convenience of renting? Because like, some of these rental properties, they have like a pool, they have a fitness area, they give you a sense of
Facts.
community.
Yeah, that's my part. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gated, especially as a woman, it gives you like the extra layer of security. With the house, I mean, you could find a gated community, but those will probably be more of your
Um,
existing homes.
what is called when it's I forgot what it's called because they actually add on extra fees and
HOA.
everything. You gotta. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what it is.
So HOA is a homeowners association, and
Mhm.
basically, I mean that could range. The most expensive HOAs that I see in the Memphis market are condos, just because condos, they basically are like apartments that you can own.
Yeah.
It's one big building, and then you have separate units, and you can own the unit, but they usually have like a pool, workout center. They have a bunch of amenities. Usually, sometimes tennis
Right.
courts,
Yeah.
security. So the HOA and some residential like single family homes have HOA, and usually I've seen some as cheap as like $10 a month. I've seen some, maybe $100 a month, and that with homes. But like with condos, I mean, I've seen some as high as like $700 a month for HOA, and that's not even including, like your mortgage payment,
Taxes.
your taxes, and insurance.
Mhm.
And then HOAs, I mean, I don't know. I have a mixed view of HOAs because it's like usually the premise of a HOA is to keep the community uniform so that home values can remain strong, and that there's not one house that's making the whole neighborhood look bad. But I've also seen where it's like or people have the opinion that, man, I'm not buying a house for somebody else to tell me how to maintain my house. So there's pros and cons to HOAs, but do note that they are a included cost. So depending on how expensive the HOA, it can affect your purchasing power. Like when I was talking about condos, like say if you could afford the monthly payment of like $1,500 on a condo, well, within that $1,500, you also have to fit the HOA. So if the HOA is like $500, that severely hampers how much condo you can afford. So that's also something to consider, that HOAs are a part of, you know, your monthly payment.
Okay. I got a question for you. Okay, let's say you are an investor and you're looking for properties to buy. I know we see these videos all the time on Facebook.
hmm
Go buy a multi-family home, this and that, blase, blase. What is your thoughts on that? And then also we have a comment asking about renters insurance. What does it come into play? I guess he's trying to ask about like, 'cause I know he's an investor for a fact. So
Got
he bought a property, think about renters insurance, to protect the home, probably outside of what he already has through the mortgage on the home.
Got it. So renter's insurance is exactly what it is. It means you are a renter and you want to get insurance on your belongings. So if you are a renter and you are renting either a house, a townhouse, condo, whatever you're renting, renter's insurance usually only covers you and your belongings. It doesn't cover anything about the house or any of the units of the house. So renter's insurance, I think, is a good investment. Like last year, a year, was it last year? So me and my wife, because even though I'm a realtor, last year we were renting. We rented a house just because, like I said, I move around. Now we got two kids, so and we
Right.
don't know if we staying in Tennessee. So that's the reason we rent. But we had an issue with our one of our systems was leaking gas. Called the homeowner, they got it situated, but we had to be out the house for a couple of days. Well, luckily we had a renter's insurance policy which covered hotel stay. So we was able to go stay at the Embassy Suite for a couple of nights through our renter's insurance at no extra cost besides the monthly premium, which is like $20. So renter's insurance is only for if you're renting a house or and it only covers like your belongings or if something affects you. Now say if like the house catches on fire, that would be
Right.
on the owner to file what is homeowners insurance. So there could be two insurance policies on one well, it's only technically one insurance policy on the house, and then you as the renter could get insurance that would cover like you. Some renters insurance even cover your vehicle if it's on the property, like in
Property.
the
Yeah.
driveway or something, like, or like if you have a situation where someone injures themselves at like a party of yours, sometimes renters insurance could cover that if that person sued you. So it would
Yeah,
be
I ain't know
good
that.
to, yeah, so it would be good to review what specific renters insurance you get.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you are a renter, I would always advise to get renters insurance just because, I mean, you've seen like apartments have caught on fire or
Yeah.
something, or like say the house get broken into. Even even if like say if the house catch on the fire, the homeowner is gonna be fine if he has that coverage in his homeowner's policy. But all your belongings in the house, if you don't have renter's insurance, that homeowner's insurance policy does not cover you and your belongings, only the house and the homeowner.
Okay.
And then you asked me the second part about renter's insurance, and then what was the second part?
Well, actually, the first part was,
What first part?
uh, how do you feel about investors? Investors, okay.
Oh
But
yes,
you see all
family
them
houses.
viral videos about, yeah, multi-family homes.
Yeah, the viral videos, they're like when you were elementary student, and you had to write the five sentences for a paragraph, and your teacher say write a good hook sentence. Those viral videos are hooked to bring
Yeah,
you
boy.
in to learn more, but they don't always give the full context. It don't make them wrong. I'm just saying. So with buying a multifamily or any investment property, it really just comes down to understanding what are you trying to buy and do, because there are different investment strategies. Just a couple of the basics. You could, what we do is called buy and hold. So that means you buy a property, you're gonna hold on to that property for a couple of years or maybe forever. But when you buy that property and you get a tenant to live in. Now the goal for most people is, now just a disclaimer, if you buy one property, two property, I mean, even if you got five properties, you're probably
Mhm.
not going to get rich and live the luxurious lifestyle that they paint in the viral videos from having just five properties. But there is a way to accumulate what we call passive income that could put you on a track to get to that luxurious lifestyle. But say you buy a house, so you go and you buy a property that is livable, and depending on what kind of loan product you do, you could now, of course, if you already own a property that's FHA, you can't buy that one with FHA, but you could buy a
Right.
conventional. There are some other kind of products you can use, which are called non-QM. I'm a lender, and I can discuss those in a second. But there are other products that you can use to buy investment products, and they usually require 20% down, 30% down, things like that. But if you buy and hold, say you buy a house and the mortgage with your taxes and payments and all that comes out to be $1,000. Usually, what investors or what trained investors or seasoned investors do, they figure out what is the rental market in that area. So, say if I go to an area and houses are renting for $1,300, well, they want to find a house where maybe their payment can be that $1,000, and that includes like your mortgage and interest. That
Mhm.
includes taxes. Maybe you put like $100 aside for any maintenance, and then another one that a lot of people may not know is called property management, which means that you may own a house and have a tenant, but you have a company that manages the property. And that
Yeah.
usually
Right.
includes like they collect the rent, they may process any claims that the tenant may file as far as maintenance. They make it easier for the actual owner to not be so hands-on, but that's
Oh,
usually
man.
and usually the cost of property management is like 8 to 10% of the monthly rent. So if the rent is $1,000, the property management fee may be between 80 to $100. I'm sure some are different, but that's usually what I've seen when I work with investors. But
Right.
when you add up all those expenses, it's just a matter of what do you want to cash flow off this property. And cash flow just means the amount of money left over after you take care of all the necessary expenses for the property. So if you rent it for 1,300, but all those expenses I named add up to $1,000, then your cash flow would be $300. So that's buy and hold. So that's just a matter of knowing the numbers of what would it rent for, what would your monthly payment be, and getting a tenant that will pay that rent, and then finding the proper loan product that will get you the payment so you can cash flow like you want. Buy another investment strategy is called fix and flip, where it's you find properties that are undervalued. So it could be a property that needs work, could be a property that's all the way falling down. You would then look at what properties in the area are selling for if you were to take that dilapidated property and fix it up and sell it. So you might find that okay, 3 bed, 2 baths are selling for 150 in this area. Well, you might find a house that you could buy, for 30 grand. You may have to put another 50 grand into it. That now you're all in at 80 grand. And then when you go to sell it at 150, then you have to include like commissions and some other fees,
Yeah.
but you might clear 15 grand. And for some people, that's all. Some people have a different level of how much they want to clear. Some people they won't touch it if they can't clear 10 grand. Some people 20. It just all depends on that specific
Right.
investor. So you have buy and hold, you have fix and flip. You have some people that do like tax liens where they go and buy property and
I was just gonna ask that.
and with tax liens, each county, each state is different. But sometimes a property, if the taxes are overdue, it goes to auction or it goes to some platform that you could buy it, and then you have to clear what's called the redemption period because the usual states they give whoever is in default of the taxes, they give them a certain amount of time to redeem themselves. But like if it clears all that, I mean, you may have bought a property through a tax sale at 20 grand. And
Mhm.
instead of that person doing the fixing and flipping, they find somebody else that fix and flips it, and they might try to sell it to that person for 35, and then they make that $15,000 a
Yeah.
profit. And then the other one that's probably the most common that a lot of people see is like wholesaling. Wholesaling is basically it's kind of dicey because some wholesalers have given it a negative connotation, some have given it positive. I mean, that's with any industry, but usually wholesaling is you find somebody that wants to sell a house at a certain number, and then they put it under contract and want it. So say if I get a property that the seller wants to sell it at 50,000. Okay, cool. I get it under contract for 50,000, and then I may know some other investors or other people that buy, and I may want to sell it for 65,000. Well, if the seller gets their 50, the buyer buys it at 65. That $15,000 usually goes toward the wholesaler, and that's
Right.
really, I mean, that's the
Okay.
simple.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the simplest. Those are some of the investment strategies.
Okay, so since you've told us about the numbers and the business side, what is some advice that you would give? So my aunt, she's been a realtor probably about 15, 16 years now. I feel like she's the GOAT. Like she is one
Definitely.
house selling woman. What is some advice? And I have friends that are trying to become realtors. I have friends that have got out of nursing and going into realtors. What is something, the do's and don'ts that you tell new realtors to do? Like, what is the advice that you'd be like, I wouldn't do this or I would do that? Like, tell them the real deal.
Definitely. So I wouldn't become a realtor if you think that being a realtor is all just dressing up. You get to work when you want to. You're making all these
With
large
the
commission checks. You know,
with the
you
arms folded like this.
yeah, social media has a way of portraying things without giving clear and full context. I know
That's
some
it.
people. I've heard some people that's like they don't like working a 9 to 5, so they want to get a realtor because they can set their own hours.
That-
It's the same as the person that's like, you know what, I'm not gonna work for anybody else. I'm gonna start my own business. You don't realize that when you work for somebody else, it's a lot. It's a lot of structure, and you just come in, you work your 9 to 5, you go home.
Yeah.
When you're a realtor, if you are especially a high producing realtor or a realtor that really cares about being professional about delivering excellent service, you work way more than a 9 to 5. I mean, you work from basically the time. And now of course you can always set a schedule that's off limit times that you don't respond to clients or that you don't do any real estate work because you want life balance, which I would totally expect it. Like usually I don't work on Sundays. Sundays church day, spend time with my family. But the Monday through Saturday, but sometimes I have kind of did some work. So if my wife see this, she'd be like, "Nah, he's worked some Sundays." But usually when you're a realtor, you work in the service industry. Yeah, you do sales, but you are in the serve position because you are representing someone else who's usually, this is the biggest investment they're going to make, whether it's buying a property or selling. This is usually, for the most part, this is the biggest transaction that people are going to be a part of. So you have to cater and serve their needs while professionally educating and guiding them the right way. And that's
Right.
sometimes they may call you at 6 a.m. Sometimes they may call you at 8 p.m. And it's not that they're being disrespectful. It's just, I mean, I've had some deals where, at 8:30, a person called me and was like, I don't know if I should do this. And then, you got to spend 30 minutes of listening to them. You got to ask questions
Listening.
about,
It's a
what
life decision right here.
it's a life decision.
Yeah.
And it's like you always have to make sure that you put their needs first and you have to be
First.
available for your clients. And then it's like now I'm at a point where I have a guy that I work with. He lives in India. Well, I mean, India is like 8 or 9 hours ahead, but he's investing here in Memphis. So it's like sometimes when I'm up at 11:30 at night, it's like 8 o'clock. So he's just waking up. I'm already up, so sometimes we get on the phone at 11:30 my time to kind of talk about what's going on with the property or what's update. Or when I wake up, my kids wake up at 5:36. I have clients that have texted me or that have emails or lenders, and I'm responding to that. So I would definitely say don't get into real estate thinking that, oh, because I don't want to work a 9 to 5, I'm gonna get into real estate and I'm gonna set my own schedule. It's like, yeah, you can set your own schedule, and it's good to have structure. It's good to have call time. It's good to have time that you do certain things. But there's gonna be certain periods of your real estate career where you're gonna work outside the hours of 9 and 5, or you might leave the house at 9 o'clock, and you might not get back to 6 o'clock. So I
Right.
don't want people to think that it's all glitz and glamour. It's hard work, and it's hard work if you want to be good at it, and you want to actually make a living off of it. Because like
Right.
you can sell one house and you can make I mean, I'm not gonna lie, you can sell a house and you can make a $6,000 $7,000 commission check. 'Cause, 7,000 $1,000 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 commission check. You can make a $6,000 $7,000 commission check. that's in your pocket. Then that's after broker fees and split fees and all that. But then you got to think, it's like if you only had that one deal working, I mean, how long is 6 and 7 grand gonna last? Especially if you have an apartment, if you have
Yeah, in this
kids,
market.
you want to go out to eat. So don't do real estate if you just think it's glitz and glamours and you just gonna walk into these big paychecks. Sometimes you're gonna get a paycheck. I mean, I had a closing today on a commercial building. I mean, after my splits and fees, it's $450. But with that same client, I got another one of their commercial buildings. I mean, that building sold at $65,000. So after the splits and fees and all, you get 450. But with them, I got another commercial building that I got under contract with them that's listed at 415. So it's like not every deal is gonna be a
A
deal that
home
you can
run,
go
yeah.
to make.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you. Yeah, not every deal's a home run deal. And sometimes it take a few small deals of working with somebody and then they trust you enough and be like, you know what? Let's target this bigger purchase or let's do this bigger purchase. Or they may introduce you and say, hey, this person, he's been doing right.
Networking.
Yeah, networking. So don't get
Yeah.
in and
you
thinking
have to
like
build a relationship with them.
Yeah,
definitely.
facts, facts.
And it has to be genuine. People will know if you're very transactional. Because again, for the most part, these people are buying. This is the biggest transaction. They want to feel secure in who they're working with. They want to feel like that person genuinely cares. So if you do wrong by people or you're very transactional with people, even if you do get a good paycheck from them, you could miss so many other paychecks because they have family and friends and coworkers that, especially when people buy a house, they have housewarmings. It's a big thing. They
Yeah,
snap, and somebody's gonna ask them like, congratulations, like who helped you buy a house? Well, if you did right by that person, they're gonna sing praise. Vaughn, he was wonderful. He answered my questions. He was knowledgeable. He took his time with me. I didn't feel rushed. And then that person like, oh, can you give me, can I have his number? That's how you grow your real estate pipeline and how you're able to serve more of the community. But if you did them wrong and you only sent them houses you wanted them to buy, or you didn't answer the phone all the time, or, they'll be like, man, I had a realtor, but nah, he wasn't no good.
he was selfish.
Shout out green, man. Yo.
Hey man, folks.
Launch that man, launch it, man.
They were like, yeah, stay away from that man. But yeah, so
Yeah.
What do you feel like, what do you like doing more, or do you like more doing commercial real estate? Do you like selling houses? What is your specialty? What do you feel like I like doing that better than doing this?
I just like to do stuff where I can learn. So I'm not really. I mean, I've only I've done less than 5 commercial deals, so I can't really say I've done enough commercial to be a. I'm not technically a commercial agent, but I can do this. I prefer now if I had to pick something, I just like working with buyers. Um, Usually working with buyers, it's a little bit more legwork than working with the listing usually, because like I mean, there's legwork up front with the list with someone selling a house because you have to stay in contact with them until they're ready to sell, and you have to guide them on their whole process. But once you get it sold, people that's working with buyers are coming to the house, writing the offer. So once you get it listed, it's a little less legwork. Whereas when you're working with buyers, I mean, you might have to show 7, 8 houses, depending on what that person is looking for. But for me, for one, I like to look at some of these houses because some of the buyers that I've worked with, I mean, they're looking at no, I might have some buyers. We're looking at $100,000 houses. Some, depending if they're investor, maybe 70,000. But I've been fortunate to have a couple buyers that's looking at $500,000 houses, 600,000. So when I'm looking at some of these houses, I'm like, man, like they got a movie room. So I like
That's my
working with buyers
bro.
because you get to see some of these houses that like, I mean, right now I couldn't afford no $700,000 house, no
Me
five.
neither.
So I'm kind of being like a fan. Like I know I'm a realtor and I'm keeping it professional, but I'm looking. I'm like, I'm
I'm
looking like
cheap.
the built-in bookshelves, the pool. They got the wet bar, the separate laundry room, like things like that. I'm like, okay, they got the 10-foot ceilings. So I like working with buyers because you get to see the house, and then it's like the reaction when people find their dream home, and it's like you don't really have to sell it. The home gonna sell itself.
To
People gonna,
sell
yeah,
facts.
like when you walk in,
Yeah.
within probably like the first 15 seconds of a person like the house. But then when you first walk in and you see like the living room, and like my mom used to always tell me, kitchens and bathrooms sell. Usually, when you walk in, depending on the kind of house, there might be a foyer, or you might walk in. There's a little walkway, but then when you hit that first like opening, especially if it's an open house and people get to look to the left and right, see like the kitchen, the living room, and people be like, "Okay, I like this." And then as you walking through, they start thinking about their furniture, and they start,
Yeah.
they start coming, and it's like, "Oh, I can see." You can tell that they are seeing themselves in this house,
Yeah,
family.
envisioning it. Yeah,
So it's that
facts.
whole process, and then it's like finding a house, writing up the offer for them, figuring out the negotiation of getting them the best deal, and then it's just to kind of nurture from when you get it under contract to getting inspections set up to getting the what a lender sets up the appraisal, but to getting them to the closing table, and then when you get to see them sign and you get to take the picture with them, like I enjoy that process the most of working with buyers.
Okay, I got a question for you, brother. Okay,
Definitely.
well, actually, I got a couple because I
Okay.
actually want to deep dive this for the people that's looking to buy a house, this and that. Okay, um, I know you said earlier you looking at the lowest credit score you probably seen is about 540. Okay, with the market how it is today, we know the market is crazy. For
Definitely.
one, is it? Do you see it changing? Do you see it going down, or do you see it staying consistent, or either going up? Probably.
Usually it's gonna go up now, and this is all based on disclaimer. I work in the Memphis, Tennessee market, or like the
Mhm.
Northwest Mississippi, so I don't want somebody that sees this that may be in Texas or somewhere else that's not where I personally work. In
Right, right.
general, but in general, the consensus is usually real estate, especially if it's a decent neighborhood with a decent school system, and majority of the people that stay in the houses are owners. Usually,
Mhm.
real estate appreciates. Now, that could range from it appreciates 2%, it could appreciate 5%. When people say that the market is going to crash, I think that comes from the thinking of what happened in 2008. When that
Mhm.
first, and and most time I think people just kind of listen to the news or listen to like clicks. And then,
YouTube,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
they.
and
Yeah.
not to say that those people are completely wrong, but I think sometimes it misses the full context.
Do your own
Yes, yeah,
research.
facts,
So what happened in
facts.
2008, from what I read, and I just watched the movie The Big Short, but also just reading, in 2008, they were making what's called variable mortgages. Variable mortgages, sorry for my accent. But a variable mortgage just means at the beginning of the loan process, and usually home loans are usually 30 years. Some people do 15, some can do 10, some do 40.
Yeah.
But just the basic is 30 years. And a variable mortgage just means that usually there's a set time period at the either it's like the first 5 years or the first 7 years. Your payment is pretty low because it's a variable interest, and usually that first interest rate is pretty low. So people were able to afford those payments, and they were getting these houses that they could afford the payment as long if it would have stayed at that rate. But what happened is
Uh, I
once
got
that first time period end,
you.
some people
Just
were in what's called balloon mortgages, meaning the first
yeah,
5 years you make a monthly payment, and then at the end of that 5 years, the complete balance of the loan is due.
do yeah.
So, say if you had a $300,000 house and your monthly mortgage was $1,000 for those first 5 years or first 60 months, on that 61st month, whatever was left over, that whole balance was due.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, most people that these banks were making loans to, most of those people, they weren't really vetting them, and they weren't really putting them in loan products that they could truly afford. The banks are just being greedy, and it's like, well, we'll write this loan and somebody else will deal with the consequences. So what happened in '08? A lot of people were in loan products that they truly should not have been in because the banks were making loans to what you call subprime borrowers. Those are just borrowers that could not qualify for the traditional. So they had either very low credit scores, either their income wasn't strong, or there was a combination where that person really should not have been qualified to buy a house. But because the bank
Okay.
could make money, they just put them in a product, got them a house, and then let them deal with the consequences later.
That's messed up.
And in 2008, that was the time period where all those bad loans that they made had switched to either the extremely high payments or the balloon payments. And that's why a lot of people lost their jobs and there were a lot of vacant homes because real estate is like anything, it's supply and demand. When you have high supply and low demand, the price drops. When you have
Yeah.
low supply, high demand, the price increases. So at that time period, when all those houses became foreclosed and vacant, there was a huge increase of supply, but a very low demand. So people were getting crazy deals on properties. They were getting a house that may have been worth 350. They was getting it for 225 or 250. Well, because that happened in 2008, the government stepped in and now there are regulations and there is more
Structure to it.
yeah, there's more structure and verification that happens
Yeah.
before they give out a home loan. So, and
Facts.
most people are not in variable fixed rates. Most people are in fixed. So, like, what your payment is in month one will be your payment in month 360. So, as long as people don't lose their jobs or do something that jeopardize their ability to
Okay.
afford the mortgage, there's not going to be a lot of foreclosures. There's not going to be some huge real estate collapse. But people hear that and they just think, oh, I'm gonna keep waiting. I'm gonna keep waiting. I mean, if you keep waiting, you're just gonna pay more if you go and compare your market to what home prices were in 2019 to what there are in 2024, there's probably not many neighborhoods in any city that the home prices have not increased. So when people say, "Oh, I'm gonna keep waiting, I'm gonna keep waiting," and it's like, what are you waiting for? Because I know a big thing this year has been people, oh, they're gonna drop interest rates. Yes, they're gonna drop interest rates, but if people remember what was happening in like 2021 when mortgage interest rates were 2 and 3%, because the rates are low, everybody then wants to buy. So now you have more competition to buy the few houses that you have in the area. So you may then could qualify for a $200,000 house, but 20 other people can.
Yeah. So it's more competition there, is what you're saying. And so I guess feeding off what you said right there at the end there, I guess it would probably be a smarter strategy to buy now, wait till the interest rate drop, refinance, and you come out better.
Ye-
Yeah, I mean that's the way I'm taking it because
Yeah. So,
the interest rate high. Like,
well,
so yeah, like
that's relative. Everything in real estate, for the most part, is relative. Interest rates are high compared to what? Compared to when there was a international crisis and COVID made things the
yeah,
not
right,
the
right,
thing.
right,
Because I mean, interest rates now 5%, 6%, 7%. I mean, before COVID, the early 2000s, interest rates was like 10 and 12%. So technically, rates now are lower than what they have been historically. It's just
right.
we are prisoners of the moment. So people, when rates was 2 and 3%, people thought that was going to stay forever. Well, that was an anomaly. So with rates being, 5, 6, 7, that's not really high. That's just kind of the norm. And even with
It's
them
high.
cutting,
Yeah,
yeah, even with them cutting rates, I doubt they're going to go down to 2% and threes. I mean, they may go
facts.
down to fours and fives,
Yeah.
but I mean, a 5.9 and a 5.1. I mean, it's not a huge difference, but I mean, it's a difference. But when people talk about interest rates, that is a good factor in what your monthly payment be. But one of the biggest factors is just going to be the loan amount itself.
Right.
I mean, if you're getting a $500,000 house, even if you're probably getting a 2% interest rate, you probably still paying a couple $1,000 a month. Versus if you get a 5%, I mean, you're paying more. But I mean, the home loan is going to be what the home loan's going to be. The interest rate
Facts.
does have a influence on what the payment is going to be, but it's not the end all be all. As far as buying a house now, where some people say, marry the house, date the rate, that can work in some instances. A part of that is the house has to. So when you buy a house, it's going to get appraised. Say if it appraises at $100,000 and you got a 6% interest rate. Well, if in 8 months interest rates are down at 4%, well, you have to qualify for that 4%. So you still have to have decent credit or good credit. you have to have good income, and then that house has to appraise usually
Appreciate.
for more than what you
Yeah,
got there. Because when you
it's just like a car.
refinance, yeah. So
Uh,
what?
Yeah,
Mhm.
oh no. Go ahead and finish. But I had another question, just tracking back when we were talking about the loans. But you can go ahead and finish.
Yeah, because what I was saying, so what a refinance is when you get the first initial loan, when you refinance it, basically that second loan that you're refinancing through, they're gonna take care of that first loan, and that second loan usually has to be more than the first loan for it to make sense. So that's all it. Sometimes, sometimes home values can drop, so that refinance option may not work. But it's really, you just have to kind of know what you're doing it for, and you have to know what makes sense and how it can work for you. But you also have to accept that it may not work for you. So it's just
facts.
one of those things.
Okay.
Go ahead, Julius.
So as I was asking, just taking a little step back, what is some advice? We were talking about different loans. I'm gonna go with the VA loan. What are some of the advice that you would give someone that's using a VA loan? Is that considered I'm guessing a government loan, or how does that work? I don't know. I'm not a VA veteran or whatever. That's why I just picked that loan because I want to know.
Yeah. So a VA loan is only for people that were of, well, you have to have what's called a certificate of eligibility. So you have to have served some amount of time in some branch of armed forces. And then when you get to whatever the qualification is, you would get what's called a certificate of eligibility, where you could then qualify for a VA loan, which is like a government backed loan. So the general person can't get a VA loan, but that's what the VA loan is for: veterans or people that are served time in the military. And with a VA loan, it just means you usually have no, well, you don't have a down payment. So it's a 100% program. So it's no down payment. I believe they usually can roll closing costs into the loan. So it basically just eliminates a lot of the upfront costs for a
Yeah.
veteran to buy a house.
It kind of
And
helps you go ahead and move into your house and kind of save your
yeah,
money for the big
The-
stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
use a VA loan in more places than, like, so like with a USDA loan, they kind of work the same. A USDA loan is a 100% program, so no down payment. Usually you can roll the closing costs into the loan, so it eliminates a lot of the upfront costs. The only thing with a VA is, to my knowledge, you're not restricted by area, versus with a USDA, you have to be in a USDA area, which is usually like a rural area, so you're usually outside of city limits. But
Yeah.
there is a US. If anybody's ever looking and thinking if they could use a USDA loan, just Google USDA eligibility map. You can type in the specific address of the house that you may be looking at, and it'll tell you if it's USDA eligible.
what's the usual credit requirements on that? 'Cause I mean, me personally, I like the USDA because shit, you ain't got to put much up front at all. Rural areas is good because that's where a lot of new construction is, untapped
Hmm.
land and everything is going. So you're seeing a lot of new builds out there in that way. And so, what's the usual requirement? Ain't it like a 640, I believe, or it didn't change
No,
by
so,
then?
so usually USDA is about the same as a FHA. Now again, it's always lender specific, but usually, I mean,
Yeah,
I've seen some VA lenders that will do a 580, do a 600. So usually, like USDA, FHA, and VA, those are all government based loans. So they all usually have about the same requirements for
requirement.
keeping
Yeah,
income. It's just a matter of FHA is for basically anybody as long as you stay within the loan limits. USDA is for those rural areas, and VA is for veterans, whether they want to stay in a rural area or in the city limits.
I see. Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
So this is a question for you, because we do have about 11 minutes left. So this is a question for you. What is a personal goal for you as a realtor that you have for yourself within the next couple of years?
Within the next couple of years, at some point, I would like to get my broker's license. And a broker is just meaning, so when you're an agent, your license has to be hung with a broker, and a broker is basically like a manager. Like, they are responsible for training and teaching you and making sure you don't do anything to break the law or break agent rules. So at some point, I would like to get my brokers. And when you have a broker's, like right now, I'm with EXP Realty. If I got my broker's license, I could start my own real estate company, or I could be maybe one day be like my team lead, Donnie Murrow, and get my own team and be the broker. So it just kind of opens up a couple more avenues. So I would like to do that, and then I would like to make what's called multi-million dollar club, meaning you sold. I believe last year I think it was like $4.3 million, and
Real estate.
loan volume. Yeah, and so those are my that, and I would say my third goal is to probably get my own multifamily where I'm the owner of it. So those are my immediate three goals in the next few years of real estate.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Those are girls that we know that you will accomplish. So, good luck with that also.
Thank you.
You a Thompson boy. You gonna do it. You gonna do it. You a Thompson. You gonna do it.
So, are you wanting to move? Like, I know that you say you live in Tennessee now. I live in Texas. B live in Little Rock. Do you want to stay there? Do you know where you want to move to next? Like, where do you want to move to yourself?
The most common place that me and my wife talk about is Dallas, Texas. That's usually the most common. But we have two small children, and we have a pretty large support group. Right now, Memphis is home.
Yeah.
We're comfortable. The boys have grandparents and grandmoms and uncles and aunties that they get to spend a good amount of time with. But if we did move right now, we've talked about Dallas, Texas. My brokerage is international, so they are licensed in like countries in Africa, Europe, India, places like that, Mexico. So we technically could move out the country. I mean, that would be a very large move that we've talked about. But I would say if we did leave Memphis, the first place would probably be Dallas, Texas.
But
I
you
don't
better
like
not take my
Dallas.
nephews and nieces. I mean, you
I
better not take my nephews overseas, boy.
I people when they moved to a lot of people from our hometown or wherever, all over our stuff, they come to Texas. And me personally, I am not a fan of Dallas. I live in Fort Worth, Crowley area, and it's more like country area. It kind of put me in the mind of a bigger Little Rock. But everybody like living in Dallas. Why do you think that? Especially with you being in real estate.
I mean, it's a bigger population than Memphis, so there's more people buying and selling. So, I mean, real estate is kind of like a volume game. The more chances you get at it, the more chances you get to close. I mean, and Dallas is not necessarily for real estate. When I was leaving
like the
Atlanta,
city.
yeah, Dallas was on the list of places I would move to before we had kids, and I was just kind of moving around or thinking, because I didn't want to move back to Memphis at that time. I like living in like a slightly bigger city with just more options. But Memphis has grown so much that I don't really feel like I'm missing out on what I thought I would be missing out on when I originally moved back in 2018. But I mean, I've been to Dallas a couple times. I got some family in Dallas. Shout out Uncle Keith.
Shout out Kishana, who used to whoop our ass with that belt, boy.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of family in Dallas. I've been there. It's not a very, very large city. It's not like a Houston. Like I think Houston's too big for me just because I mean I'm not really going in many places. I'm going to work, I'm going to gym, I'm going to church. I don't
Right.
want to deal with all that traffic. So I want to kind of be in my little niche of area.
Yeah,
But Dallas just has some appeal. They got basketball team, got fortunately they got a football team, the Cowboys. But they play the Eagles
I
twice.
know, right?
I get to see them play.
Hey, hey, my brother, an Eagle fan, just like me. Quit playing with it.
Yeah,
We
so
Eagles over here.
So
but yeah.
I do feel like that it's more black realtors. It's more people, more black people are becoming realtors that I've seen. Like I said, I have a lot of friends that are becoming realtors. My aunt's been one for years. I have close friends that are realtors. So do you, as far as like I don't want to say race, but do you feel like black people are being more into real estate now than they were maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
Mm, Probably. I would assume. I mean, when I first got into, I stay in a predominantly black city, so it's hard to really
Yeah,
say.
Memphis is black.
Yeah, but I mean,
Like
there
Haven,
are.
man.
Yeah, so it's hard to say if more black people have gotten into it compared to a few years ago, and maybe so. I'm sure with the pandemic, probably eliminating jobs or doing that stretch of time where only essential workers could work, people kind of was like, you know what, these 9 to 5s are not all the way guaranteed. So let me get another skill. Let me get another. means of hustle. So that's probably had led to an increase in, and not just black, but that's probably led to an increase of all different races of people getting
Right.
into real estate. Um,
I know in
Probably.
Texas Canada it did. I saw a big increase in it in Texas
Yeah, so
Canada.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably, depending on where you stay. If you stay in a black city, and
Yeah.
people want to get in real estate, there's more black realtors. But that's just by default of staying in a black city. So it's
Right.
hard to say it's only specifically blacks have more so got into real estate. Which, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just, I mean, people get into it, and I'm sure not everybody. It's like any job. You might hire 100 people, but in like 2 years, how many of that 100 is staying? You might be down to 30.
Right.
And
Facts.
it may be even less because, like I say, real estate, you only get paid when the deal closes. So you could work with somebody for 7 months and never get paid. And if you're not getting paid from other deals, I mean, it's hard to pay bills when you're not making no
Yeah.
money. So, like
Yeah.
I know here in the Memphis market, I know for sure our amounts of realtors have decreased in the past year. So,
Okay.
So
All
I, and
right.
then, like I said, just I have these questions because I want to know. Another question: what are tips that you give people that are trying to take the real estate test and get their license? Because
Damn,
I
can
know
I ask
people
a
that I
question?
took it 2 or 3 times. You said what?
I said, damn, can I ask a question?
Oh my bad, because I don't want to
Damn.
forget. Like I mean,
Nah, go ahead,
what I
Juice. Go
this
ahead.
is
Go
what I
ahead.
want to know because I know people who take the
Yeah.
test and what are some of the tips? I don't know if they're not studying right or I don't know. It's not my field, so that's why I'm asking you because you done passed and you in there. So I want to know what tips do you give?
so for me, I'm, I heard some people say they're bad test takers. I can say I wasn't blessed with that. I'm a good test taker, and I'm probably, when I take a test, I'm usually the first person done. I read the question, I know it, I don't, I move on. So that's the first thing. Don't get psyched out mentally and be like, I'm a bad test taker or this test is hard. Nothing's hard if you're prepared. I would say whatever pre-licensing course you take, make sure I would ask local agents, like whatever you want to get licensed, I would ask those local agents, probably ask like 5 to 10 what courses that they take. And usually most people are probably gonna take the same course because it's gonna have a reputation of helping people pass. Take it, be serious when you take it, take notes, really learn and don't try to remember the information, but understand what it's trying to teach you. And some stuff you have to remember, like some stuff is based on numbers, so you have to know those numbers or know that math. But just be confident when you go in there. If you've prepared to pass, then go in there, relax, read the question. And this is what I found because I've taken, like I said, I've taken the Tennessee test, the Mississippi. The only one that I failed on the first try was when I was in Georgia. I failed it, and that's a whole debacle. I feel like I only failed it because the course I took didn't have a math section, and when I got to the test, a good amount of it was math. So I ended up getting a refund from them because I was able to prove y'all didn't adequately prepare me. But I got another course after I asked some realtors. I passed that one. I passed my Tennessee and Mississippi on the first try. But read the question, really read it and understand what it's asking. It's all multiple choices, A, B, C, D. What I have found is out of those four options, usually two of them make absolute no sense. So if you can eliminate those two, it gives you a 50% chance of getting it right. But then reread those two answers, and usually the first the it will stick out. Like it's not if you know what the question is asking and you have studied, that right answer usually jumps out at you pretty quickly if you actually just take the time to read and not psych yourself out.
Okay. Okay. Now, can I ask a question, Juice? You got anything else? We got
Now
two
I done let
minutes.
this boy talk for 10 hours and he doesn't give. He a hater. Go ahead, boy, with
Hey, ain't no
your
hater.
shirt
I
on,
love you. I
with
love you,
this
Juice.
silk R&B shirt on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I look like Tank.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. You look no, you do not.
Will we?
You look
Yeah.
like Barry White, if anything. Go ahead and ask
Barry
your
White still
question.
had him. Barry White still
Shoot.
had him. Oh yeah. What you bumping now, bro? What you bumping? Me and my brother, we always talk music, Memphis stuff. What you bumping, Shouter?
Mm, since getting more into church and trying to do right, I kind of have worked on cutting back from rap.
Who
My
do you love?
church tabernacle choir, I can't think of the name, but my church actually they released the album. And my wife, she's a big musical person, so she has more positive music she listens to. So I kind of try to listen to that. Or most time now, the only time I listen to music really is when I go to the gym. As I've gotten
Yeah,
older,
yeah.
I have a less patience for a lot of noise. So if I'm in the car most of the time, I'm just listening to the road. But if
Yeah,
I go to the gym, usually I may listen to a podcast. Now, I'm not gonna say I don't completely listen to rap. If I did have
Yeah.
to give you an album, I would say Dave East. It's probably who from New York.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, I
I
know
know.
Dave. Yeah,
and Rod,
I
I
fuck
don't
with
know.
Dave.
I feel like Rod Wave music.
Yeah.
I mean, people say it's sad music. I think he just kind of giving. I
Finally,
think he just
yeah,
kind of.
yeah,
I look at it, he's
yeah,
like. I mean, he's had some
yeah.
struggles, so he kind of just giving his testimony. But hey,
Facts. Yeah.
but for the most part, I try to kind of really limit the music I listen to that's not positive.
That's
No, I
real.
feel you. I feel
That's
you. You
real.
growing,
That's
brother. You
Yeah,
growing.
I'm trying.
Hey, I love your growth. I love you, brother.
I love you too,
You
brother.
know it. You know what I'm saying? As y'all can tell, I'm the ratchet brother. Well, our big
yes, you
brother,
can
he a little bit
tell.
more ratchet. Our big
Yeah,
brother
yeah. Shout
way
out
more ratchet than
Justin.
me. I'm like in between both. So that's why I'm the middle. So but I love you, brother. I hope all is well. Tell mama, tell daddy and them I said what's up. Tell my nephews and then love them. Tell sister in law love them. Um, shoot, I appreciate you coming on. I know you're gonna do good. You know, you a Thompson boy. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Definitely. We're gonna make something shake.
On me, always, boy. I'm on vacation. I might come up there if y'all ain't got nothing going on, man.
Just let me know.
Already, Juice. Any words
Thank
you would like to say
you.
to the people?
Thank y'all for watching. Y'all keep subscribing, keep watching us, keep supporting us. Thank y'all for supporting us. And thank you again for coming on and talking to us and educating us today.
Oh, no problem. And just a quick shout out. If you are in the Tennessee market or Mississippi, Lord, or really if you're in any market, because EXP, we're licensed in all 50 states. If you have any questions, you can give me a call at 901-305-3189. Or you can follow my Instagram. It's just Von, which is VON is lunch, and it's LAUNCH. And if you have any questions, I mean, outside of this podcast, you can always call. Even if you don't live in those markets I work in, I can at least guide you to another realtor that, I can check to see if they're a productive agent and have a good reputation, and I can guide and connect you with a realtor in another state.
And
Already,
also,
already.
if you're in the other areas and y'all are looking for realtors, we'll go ahead and drop them. I know some. I'm sure Brandon knows some people in the Texarkana
Facts.
area, Little Rock area. We can direct y'all in the right people. Okay.
All right.
Oh God, cause y'all need to go get them houses. Rent ain't getting no cheaper.
It
Y'all
is
need to go
not.
get a house. Oh yeah, do you still got the clothing line going too? Launch girl?
I've kind of dissolved that to focus more on real estate and
I
doing
feel you. I
loans.
feel you. Ain't
So
nothing wrong with. Hey, I
yeah,
want you to get your shine, brother. I want you to get your shine. 'Cause every
I'm
time I
trying.
look
I'm
where people
trying.
ask me where I got the hoodie from and stuff.
Yeah, man. Somebody asked. I got a few things I can send them, but just text me and see, and I'll tell them what I got.
Bet. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching tonight. You have watched the Million Mind Podcast. Go ahead, follow us on Facebook, the Million Mind Podcast. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell. Million Mind Podcast. Follow my girl Juice on Facebook, JD Easter. I was gonna show off her oil today. Go shop True Bonafide Beauty. True Bonafide Beauty. Go shop there. She got them good bundles as you could tell. Look at her hair. She got the Louis rag on with the square box Dapper Dan shades on. You know what I'm saying? We getting it going. We doing all that. You know, hit me up. Y'all want to be a guest? You already know. We got some good stuff coming. We got
We got
some
some good
good
stuff
guests.
coming.
Y'all wouldn't believe who we got coming next. Y'all ain't gonna believe it.
Y'all don't
I
even
was
know.
like, and Juice set this one up all up herself. Juice did this all herself. I let her take over the next one. And so we finna go into music on this next one. So we're gonna have some real good people on here. Just keep watching, tap in. Love you, brother. Love you, Juice. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend. I'm on vacation. I'm on bum mode. I'm finna go relax. And we gonna
uh,
catch up, okay?
Y'all have a
Y'all
all
good
right,
hit me
y'all
night.
up.
enjoy y'all night.
Everybody have a safe weekend. Love y'all.
You too.